Right, hi. I tried to do steamed salmon with tomato basil couscous. It's a recipe from Jamie Oliver's 20-minute meal iPhone app, and it went okay. It was a bit of a disaster, really. But I'm going to throw it together into a video anyways. So you'll see me do the correction at the end, but when I'm saying this onion looks a little big, yeah, I should have used half the onion and about half the fennel that you're going to see. But it still tasted good. I ate it last night, and I re-recorded this intro at the beginning. So don't believe Jamie Oliver anytime when he tells you it's going to be 20 minutes. It's never 20 minutes. Maybe if you're a pro chef, but not for us normal people. Anyways, it is a good recipe. I've made it lots of times. So here we go.
Alright, so you want to peel off any of this papery stuff. This onion is a bit large, but that's what I had on hand, and I like onions, so that's good. Okay, we just want to dice the onion, so a real nice way to do that. You want to keep the root until the very end, so chop off the tips, cut them this way. Okay, turn them this way, and cut into it like this. You're only going a little bit of the ways in. See, when I started, I actually didn't know how to chop an onion or dice it. Okay, so then you kind of got a pre-grated thing. I don't know, is it easier if I show it you this way? See, and it just comes off like that. And once you get close to the end, okay, fennel. So if you're like me, you've never seen fennel. It's also known as, I don't know, anise. I don't know who calls it that, but in the supermarket, that's probably how you'll find it labeled if you are in Canada, like me. So you might find it like this, or you might find it with the stalks out here, with a lot more of this furry bit. This stuff's all good, just adds a bit more flavor. This is basically fancy licorice. So it's got like a, it's basically fancy celery. It's got a licorice taste. You kind of cut this almost the same way as an onion. I don't really know, but this seems to be the easiest way. Cut it in half, and then do the same trick as the onion. You can smell it as I'm cutting it. It's that nice licorice flavor. So we're doing the same thing, just chopping. And you can slice it that way if you want, and then chop. Chilies. This is where it's kind of optional. If you don't like heat, you can just skip this altogether. Use a spoon to take out the seeds if you don't want them. Then your fingers don't get as much chili on them, and then when you go to rub your eyes, it won't hurt. So if you like a little spice, leave the seeds in. And what I did, I got sick of going to Superstore and never finding chilies hot enough, so I got these at the farmer's market. I bought a whole mess, and these chilies freeze really well. They don't come out that great in terms of being a nice crisp texture, but if all you're going to do is chop them up like I'm about to, then they work just fine. This is what happened to my basil plant when we went to Saskatoon. I bought this stuff. This is a little expensive really for fresh herbs, but you can use basil. Get a lot of these leaves, throw those in a grilled cheese sandwich. They taste great. So we're going to separate the stalks from the leaves. Finally chop the basil stalks. We'll use some of those leaves later on, so just keep these around. You can tear them up now if you want to into smaller pieces. Okay, get out your mortar and pestle. If you don't have one of these, you can just take a spoon or a knife and just crush the hell out of them against a flat surface. Careful that you got a strong knife. So about a half teaspoon. That's a little much of that. I can throw a couple of, if you want it a little hotter, take some of those seeds too. Throw them in. And just grind the crap out of that. Okay, so we'll add the fennel seeds in. Now this right here is a great place to stop. You can do all this the night before, 2 days before, and this is going to keep. Okay, and you're just going to fry that up later. What happens next? Get yourself a lemon, cut it in half, keep one half, do the other one in little wedges for serving. And cherry tomatoes, cut these in half. Now, I regularly use all sorts of things that aren't cherry tomatoes. Roma tomatoes, beef tomatoes, whatever I got lying around. Although, cherry tomatoes are really the nicest. This is the stuff we get at Costco. Non-organic. I'm kind of afraid to find out how it's been raised or how it's been treated. But anyways, you get yourself some salmon like this. They're individually packaged. They freeze really nice. So then we've always got salmon on hand. Woo! Almost caught my foot off. Of course it's my foot, eh? So get yourself a plate. Put your salmon on it. Just drizzle a little bit of olive oil over top of that. A bit of salt. Not too much. A bit of pepper. I like a lot of pepper. You might not want as much. Okay, so we'll just let that sit for a little bit. 2 cups of water. Just get that on a high heat. We just want boiling water. This one, we just want on a medium heat. I'm using one that's pretty tall, just to make sure I've got enough room. But I've just found I like having a little bit of depth there, especially if you want to double the recipe for 4 people. So the pan's hot. Add a splash of olive oil. Now let's add all those tasty veg that we chopped up. Because you'll notice that's basically all it was chopping. I've actually never cooked with a bay leaf in my entire life, so this is the first time ever. I got these dried ones, which I'm sure are bad. So we want to cook this for about 5 minutes. Right? Or really until your vegetables are getting a little soft. So a lid can just help hold that heat in. It's been about 3 minutes. Give your veggies a stir every once in a while. Now the next ingredient that we're going to want is couscous. So I started buying mine in bulk. You can get it at little boxes at Safeway. No one believes me this, but the cheapest couscous you can buy is at Planet Organic. So pour yourself some of that couscous. I hope this is coming out okay. It's just like really fine-grained stuff, and it fluffs up a little like rice does. It's been 5 minutes by now, and these vegetables are still quite crunchy. So you want them soft. You can pour in a little bit more olive oil if you want. Help them get there. Okay, so this is good. The vegetables are, they still got a little bit of crunch, but they don't taste raw anymore. So we got our couscous. Let's add about 2/3 cup of boiling water. Let's get a fork and just stir that around, fluff it up a little bit, make sure the water mixes in. Let's take those tomatoes that we halved earlier, throw those in. Whoops, there's still some whole tomatoes in there. Add yourself some salt and pepper. Okay, so flatten that out, keep it real flat. Pour in the couscous. And this is where the pan size can really matter, because you want the couscous to go over the vegetables evenly. After you played with the recipe, you can add a bit more couscous to taste if you want. Let's add another 2/3 cup boiling water. Into the bottom there. A little bit more can't hurt. Now, here's where we get to the point where I realize I screwed up. The recipe calls for 2 fish. I have de-thawed 1 fish. So really, you would want to have 2 fish here, because the amount of vegetables and everything I did is totally for 2 fish. So that water's going to steam up and cook that fish. Let's say about 10 minutes. You want to let that just do its thing. Oh, whoops. I forgot. See, I always forget something. Just grate a little zest of lemon over there. So I guess I'm just going to have some plain couscous and vegetables, and that's alright. Then I suck at not getting seeds in, so I'm just going to squeeze it out through a strainer. Squeeze a half lemon. Haha! So, here's the part where I've totally screwed up. My phone just died on the battery. Thankfully I put a battery pack in it, which is charging it as we speak. And the time that it spent charging has been almost enough for it to get cooking. I actually put a little bit more water in here, boiled it in the microwave, poured that in to help it steam because it just wasn't cooking enough. Yeah, that fish is still looking a little bit raw. It's really close though. I'm just eating by myself, so you'll excuse the fingers and sort of things. I promise not to do that when you come over for dinner. So, all around, I should have had smaller onion, smaller fennel, or I should have used about half of what you saw. That would have helped it cook a little bit more. But it's nothing you can't just work around. Like I said, throw a little bit more boiling water if it's not really cooking. We've also just taken the fish out and microwaved the hell out of the fish to get it to cook if it's not quite there. So it is a bit of a touchy recipe, I suppose, but really it is dead simple because once you've chopped the vegetables, which is time consuming, you just throw it on the pan and you just let it do its work. As you can see, all the recipe ingredients are completely fresh, nothing out of a jar. I guess the last bit is when we open this up, you can put a little bit more olive oil on. I'm going to scatter some of this fresh basil, more for appearance than taste. And I'm not going to show you that because I'm kind of having to hold the phone with my thumb now that I got the battery pack in it. So yeah, that's it. That's the tomato and basil couscous. Alright, so that's it. That's what it looks like. Didn't come out of the pan perfect, recipe didn't go perfect, but you know, that's edible. So definitely cut the onion and fennel in half. I went too big with those. And that's about it. Yourself a nice glass of wine. Dig in.